The movie opens up with a pale woman in a dark and depressing room. She is seen as she writes a report on the back of an old calendar and a faded stationery. She says that she is afraid that much of what she remembers will be different from her real experiences, implying that the notes help her keep track of time even though it's not important. The scene then shows the earlier memory of the lady, embarking on a journey to a secluded hunting lodge in the Austrian Alps. Accompanying her are her two friends, Hugo and Louise, along with their beloved dog, Lynx. However, upon their arrival, Louise insists Hugo join her at a pub in a nearby village, leaving the dog and the woman behind. Seeking relaxation, the woman spends the night alone, eagerly anticipating her friend's return the next day. To her dismay, the next morning reveals that her friends have yet to come back to the lodge. Surrounded by an unsettling silence, she becomes increasingly anxious, fearing that something may have happened to them. She then sets off toward the village with a Lynx to figure out what had happened. As they walk along, she sends Lynx ahead of her, but he starts to act weird and stops at one point. She comforts the dog to keep walking and come forward. Annoyed by the dog's attitude, she continued her walk toward the empty road only to be stopped by an invisible wall. With nothing ahead of her, the woman hesitantly extends her hands to explore the wall in front of her. The transparent wall has an appearance resembling a glass. Despite her repeated attempts to surpass the unseen barrier, she is met with failure each time. Eventually, she decides to retreat to the lodge with her dog Lynx. Later, she finds herself near a farmhouse with two old people, but the invisible wall prevents any interaction with the two individuals inside. It seems as though they are trapped in a frozen moment in time. The woman exerts all her strength to push against the wall, desperately hoping to break through and seek assistance. However, her cries for help go unheard, even as the water continues to flow from the tap. It is as if the pair inside are mere characters in a video game, acting as an NPC. Confused by the bizarre atmosphere, the woman eventually gives up and leaves. Back in the lodge, she came to realize that she and her dog were actually in a big mess. Nevertheless, she returns to the location daily, hoping to find the wall vanished, only to be met with disappointment each time. The next day, she makes her way back to the lodge and comforts herself in bed. She is then seen as she wakes up and walks toward her front door. As she opens the door, she finds the invisible wall has shrunk and now it's sitting in front of her. After touching the terrified wall, she screams out loud, only to be woken up in her bed. Turns out that this is only a nightmare. The following morning, she cautiously unlocks the door to inspect if the wall has emerged as in her dream. To her relief, she finds the path clear and the wall missing. She then uses binoculars to survey the surroundings once more. She concludes that the couple residing in the farmhouse and the entire village's population must have perished. As the woman strolls through the surrounding area, she encounters a cow and makes the impulsive choice to claim it as her own. She nourishes and extracts milk from the cow, affectionately naming it Bella. Aware of the mixed blessings and challenges this acquisition brings, she gradually finds herself driven to overcome the obstacle. With determination, she ventures into Hugo's car, embarking on a journey down the road towards the nearby village. Hoping to surpass the transparent wall, however, her efforts are stopped as she unexpectedly crashes into the invisible wall, resulting in a head injury and physical pain. Despite her attempt, the impenetrable wall remains unyielding. Back in the lodge where she resides, the woman cultivates potatoes and searches for sustenance to remind herself of the comforts of civilization. On one rainy day, she is abruptly startled by noises emanating from outside. Fearful yet curious, she cautiously ventures outdoors to discover a wet cat. Deeply moved, she decides to adopt the cat as her companion. As time passes, their limited food source becomes less, for they have shared their lives for 4 months. With winter drawing near, the responsibility of providing sustenance for the entire season now falls upon her shoulders. Resentfully, she is compelled to partake in the brutal act of hunting animals for survival. Accompanied by her loyal canine companion Lynx, she embarks on a deer hunting expedition within the woods. However, her attempt to bring down a deer is met with a painful setback, as she sustains an injury from the recoil of her rifle. The woman then goes back to the location where she discovered the wall for the first time. Hugo's car stands there. She helps herself to the vehicle and finds a map that allows her to look for other hunting places. The next scene shows as she walks into the serene highlands, amidst the melodic chirping of birds. She catches sight of a timber-laden truck traversing the forest. With a gentle stride, she draws nearer, anticipating a human presence. However, the transparent barrier hinders her from making direct contact. Unstopped by this obstacle, the woman responds with a tranquil smile and continues her journey. After an adventurous trek, she stumbles upon a lodge, prompting her to explore its premises. She gathers essential belongings, intending to bask in the sunlight with her feet in the grass and a bird soaring overhead. But before indulging in this cozy moment, she must return to the lodge to attend to Bella's nourishment. On her way back to the lodge, she takes down a deer with her gun, but is overwhelmed with guilt. As night falls, she cowers in fear of the raging storm, shutting her eyes tightly and seeking solace in sleep. When morning arrives, she is startled by a peculiar sound emanating from a nearby cabinet. Curiosity compels her to investigate, and to her surprise, she finds a delicate white kitten nestled inside. Instantly captivated by its beauty, she christens the newborn feline Pearl, believing it to be as unfortunate as herself, trapped in an unfamiliar place. Months later, on the 20th of July, the lady toils relentlessly in the meadow, harvesting the hay with immense effort. The labor takes its toll, causing her hand to become afflicted with painful sore swells and fractures. Despite the adverse weather conditions and her physical limitations, she perseveres and manages to return to the lodge with a bale of hay. The lady experienced more nightmares than usual, but she always had someone to uplift her spirits. Her closest companion, Lynx. Lynx had a remarkable ability to banish her unhappiness within 3 minutes, and being near him made it impossible for her to stay sad. The lady also believed that there was something special about her that caused Lynx to show deference whenever he saw her. While on her journey to discover a new path, the lady stumbled upon a tree adorned with human clothing. The relentless wind, carrying snow from the nearby mountain, made the outside temperature bitterly cold. Therefore, she sought refuge inside a lodge to keep warm. Despite this, she couldn't shake her worry for the cats, particularly for Pearl, the newborn kitten. Later on, back in the lodge, she learned the devastating news that Pearl had perished during a relentless 3-day windstorm. Grieving, she buried Pearl, noting that the windstorm had finally ceased by the end of the night. This was the first time she had to confront death in the woods. After that incident, she felt as though she was the sole individual in the forest who possessed the ability to discern right from wrong. On November 5th, she commenced writing her report. A brutal winter looms ahead for the woman and her companions. She senses that Bella, one of her beloved animals, is on the verge of delivering a calf. Bella the cow holds a cherished spot in her heart, akin to that of a younger sister who has weathered life's storms alongside her. Bella goes into labor and gives birth to a healthy calf. The woman decides to assist her in the process, following a long and challenging struggle. As the weeks pass, the woman becomes increasingly tired and daydreams about collapsing onto the cold, numbing snow. On May 25th, after spending a year at the lodge nestled in a small valley, they ascend to the lofty mountain pasture, where they will spend the summer, basking in the comforting rays of the sun and gazing at the brilliant starry nights. The woman's yearning for home and her worries have diminished. She confesses to not keeping a journal during her first visit to the pasture hunting lodge, as she finds her thoughts to be tranquil. She did not even make a record of the significant events that occurred there, believing that they were still so vivid in her mind that she could write about them any time. She is often seen in the pastures, savoring the picturesque scenery, the warmth of the sun during the day, and the mesmerizing stars at night. During the second summer, she transforms, as if her newfound self is merging into a greater whole. In October, the woman returns from the pasture and resumes her writing. Winter swiftly arrives, followed by spring, and she feels as though time is slipping away from her. She has no recollection of the moments she spent writing. She perceives that while she is engrossed in her work, time passes swiftly, and once she completes it, time embraces her. In the next scene, the lady is seen sitting calmly in her chair, deep in thought about connections. She expresses her compassion for both animals and humans who are compelled to live against their desires. One morning, her attention is captured by a white crow, an outcast from its black family. She finds the crow to be beautiful and questions the absurd notion that there shouldn't be a white crow. After the crow's flock departs, she offers it food, feeling a kinship with the bird, as if they are both solitary beings in the woods. Gradually, the woman begins to detach herself from her past and embraces a new way of life. In June, she returns to the meadow with her animals, but she does not experience the same level of fascination as the previous year. She remarks that Lynx, in particular, has become fearless. The woman believes that she and Lynx share a deep understanding. One unfortunate day, Lynx senses something amiss while returning from a hike and swiftly heads towards the lodge. Upon reaching the lodge, the woman witnesses a peculiar man cruelly destroying Bella's bowl. Terrified, the woman rushes into the lodge to fetch her firearm upon spotting a calf wielding an axe. Determined to prevent harm, she shoots at the intruder and tragically discovers her beloved Lynx lying lifeless. Overwhelmed with grief, she lays her faithful companion to rest and then disposes of the stranger's body by tossing it over a nearby cliff. She harvests potatoes, fruit, and straw in October, which takes a week, and she and Bella the cow return to the small valley early in the morning. Before we know it, winter will arrive. The film closes as the woman runs out of paper to write on and completes her report on February 25th.